All right, good morning, folks. Your friendly neighborhood old soldier coming at you again from Roberts County, North Carolina. Apologize for being absent for a couple of days. Between keeping the grandbaby and just my back hurting like bad. Just had fell up to it. Pick up where we left off, though. Last 2 points of the 45 points of the Communist Manifesto to take over America we talked about were 5 and 6. Extension of long-term loans to Russia and Soviet satellites and to provide aid to all nations regardless of communist domination. Brings us to our next point, point 7. The granting of recognition of Red China and admission of Red China to the UN. Now, we're going to talk a little bit in depth about this one. Red China came about after the end of World War II. Let me say it again. Red China came about after the end of World War II. A little history lesson. During World War II, China was divided. You had Chiang Kai-shek, who was the nominal capitalist democratic leader of China. He was actually a little arrogant pissant, or peanut, as General Joseph Stilwell referred to him. He, like his Russian counterparts, loved taking in that American aid and then not use it because he was going to use it for something else later down the line instead of the overall war effort, which was to defeat Japan, Germany, and Italy, and a few other nations that aligned with the Axis. Okay, so let's fast forward to the end of hostilities in World War II. China's still a divided nation between the communists and the nationalists, right? The problem with the nationalist army was it was corrupt. The nationalist government was corrupt. They, to put it in more comparable terms, they were a lot like Arab armies. I said it, Arab armies. Where General so-and-so's in power not because he can command troops, but because his family, his tribe, his state holds a lot of power in the political body or is related to the royal family, whatever the case may be, and he got his appointment, etc., etc. The nationalist Chinese army kind of worked in that way. Of course, the Chinese nationalist army also had a lot of warlords in it, or former warlords. You gotta realize China was a very, how do I put it? I don't want to put it politely. Torn up country. Let's put it that way. What do I mean by that? Go back in history again. Let's go back to the 1890s, early 1900s. There's a movie out called 55 Days to Peking, or 55 Days in Peking. Charlton Heston stars in it. Talks about a siege of the legation, which was a complex in Shanghai of European nations. It's where their embassies and consulates were. Because during that time, Europe was just stripping the crap out of China left and right, milking its resources and basically not paying the people a dime. I'm not saying it was right. It's just what was going on at the time. Anyway, a rebellion stood up from what they called the Boxer Rebellion, which is a kind of like a fraternal order there in China. Kind of unified a lot of the tribe, warlords under one umbrella for a time. It was even supported by the Empress of China herself, who, towards the end of it, actually outright gave these boxers, as they were called, direct aid from the Imperial Army to include using the Imperial Army in direct action against these Europeans. I mean, it was eventually defeated by a relief party from all the European nations that came to save their people that were there. But long story short, these warlords continued to feud all the way up to right before World War II. And then the communists started to infiltrate China and started to make a play to rule the government. Fast forward to the end of World War II, Japan has surrendered. Japanese occupation forces are being removed from China. There creates a power vacuum void. Chiang Kai-shek has realized he's losing all of his foreign aid from the U.S. So now he's got a crapper get off the pot. Basically, the uneasy agreement between the democratic forces or the nationalists and the communists comes to an end, and we start to see direct action by the communists take over all of China, thus eventually pushing Chiang Kai-shek and his nationalist forces to the island of Taiwan, is what we know it today. Now, in certain circles, the communist circles, Taiwan's a part of China. In free nation, Taiwan is its own country. But poor old United States kind of got themselves caught in a debacle when they were forced to recognize Red China, but still continue to aid and protect Taiwan. Now, if you look at a map, you look at the size of Taiwan, you look at the size of China, if China wanted to invade Taiwan, they could probably take that island. I didn't say it'd be easy, but they could probably take the island. With Allied assistance, maybe not. But I'm just saying, in an initial attack, if China were to just decide, you know what, screw it, we don't care what the rest of the world thinks, we're going to take it, they've got the manpower. They could probably get in there and take the island before we could even bat an eye and provide assistance. I'm just telling you like it is. That was why it was important for Red China to get recognition and also be allowed into the UN. Now, once allowed into the UN, if you've ever kept up with any of the stuff that the UN does, China always seems to have a major say in anything that's going on, especially in their sphere of influence. Anything to do with a communist nation, anything to do with resources that would benefit them, anything that would benefit them in the way of trade agreements. China has a say in the matter. And that was all done by plan and design. Okay? They basically become a major player in the UN. Now, let's fast forward to now, where Joe Biden went to the UN to talk about racial relations in the United States and how the UN could help fix the systemic racism that's going on in the United States, which, we all know is a bold-faced lie. And yes, racism does exist. I'm not denying that. But the systemic racism that the left would lead you to believe is happening, no. I call bull crap on that. But who's a major player in this? Drop my cap off my mat shoulder. Who's a major player in this? China. Remember, I've talked to y'all before about this. China would love to have the resources here in the U.S. Even though they've got a vast wealth of resources in their own nation, they ain't even tapped yet. Be bold. But if they could get their foot in the door here without firing a shot, they would love it. How do you do that? You install a president that is pro-China, that's willing to get down on its knees for China. Okay, we got to the Jezebel whore Harris and blowjob Biden. Okay. They go to the UN. We need assistance with all this crap that's going on. Sooner or later, because think about this. Why are they still supporting defund the police? If you abolish or reduce the capacity of local law enforcement nationwide, you reduce their ability to contain issues and violence and crime, etc., so forth. So then now there's a vacuum. A vacuum needs to be filled. Okay, well, because they're communists, they're going to write these illegal laws that, they'll rule through fear. Hey, don't get a vaccine, you can't go to the grocery store. Don't get a vaccine, you can't leave your house. But people will do it anyway. Well, they're out of control, UN. We need help. UN calls for resolution. Resolution's voted on. China basically intimidates the rest of the council. They vote in favor of the resolution. The resolution states that the United States will allow UN forces to come in to help police the state. China all too willingly sticks their hand in the air. Me, Mr. Biden. And now you have the possibility of Chinese troops coming onto our soil under a UN resolution or mandate to enforce or keep the peace. And in doing so, they'll come in and start to run roughshod over the American people. This is a prediction, folks. It's a prediction of a possibility. And it ties into this point that I just talked about, point 7, of recognizing Red China as a sovereign nation and then allowing them membership into the UN. These two things have happened. The foregone conclusion, though, is going to be that now because of it, and they've got their installed president, okay, that is their end goal. This is why it's important you read these things. That you get the book, The Naked Communist, and you read it. This is where we're headed, folks. I promise you, Joe Biden's got no issue going to the UN, because it's not really his own idea, because Joe Biden couldn't come up with an original thought to include a fart from his brain. Somebody has to tell him, hey, Joe, you need to fart. So all that hot gas is coming out your mouth and it smells like you know what. And this is the direction things are headed. So you need to wake up. You need to share this video. Okay? You need to share a link to The Naked Communist so people can get the book and they can read this. They can wake up for themselves. There are certain people on the left that are starting to wake up because of this whole mask mandate bull crap that they're trying to bring back. Because now all of a sudden the vaccine is not as what it was meant to be. Blah, 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 yappy, yappy, yappy. It's all because they're trying to control everybody. Rule by fear. That's what communists do. So, like I've told you before, my friends, this feller ain't going down without a fight. And I'm making my plans and my preparations now to do just what I'm saying I'm going to do eventually. Or you can willingly just roll over like people in my own family that I know will. Instead of standing up and fight. Well, the government promised to take care of us. So they're going to take care of us. I keep telling them, if you believe that, I got some beachfront property in Arizona you can have. And at the end of the day, yeah, that's another conversation for another time. But I'll close with this, folks. If you don't think China's out to dominate us and the rest of the world, you are sadly, sadly mistaken. And you might want to rethink how you look at things in this world. China is a communist nation. Has been for many years now. Communism doesn't work. And they always seem to rule through and by fear. That's the only way they seem to be able to get done anything that they need to get done is by that. You got to remember, when the Nazis came to power in the 30s, they were a minority as far as numbers. But they were able to persuade and manipulate the government that they had to ban firearms, confiscate firearms from legal gun-owning citizens, discriminate against several groups of people, some more harshly than others, but several. And they were able to convince the majority of a nation to hate these people out of fear. Okay? Just keep that in mind. All right, friends, until I get another video out, maybe one tomorrow, maybe Monday, not sure yet. Stay safe, stay armed, stay vigilant, keep your eyes open, your ear to the ground, your neck on a swivel. Anywho, anyhow, anyway, that's for you, Brother Kyle. Hope to see you tonight on the Georgia Shooting Connection chat. God bless. Take care. This old soldier out.